How many of you associate the word becoming with the future? Becoming is not what you will be in the future, it's what you are right now. I mean, isn't the future just a series of present moments? And this present is the result of countless decisions you've already made in the past. You all have contos, bank accounts, and you have a life conto too. Good decisions, deposits. Bad ones, withdrawals. The real bad ones can leave you bankrupt. Decisions about career, partner, children, money, what you eat, and how much. Taken individually, insignificant, but cumulatively, they're huge. They're your life. Your parents probably said the same thing many times while you did the big eye roll and inwardly groaned, enough already. The war in Vietnam was at its peak as I left high school. The prospect of becoming a soldier tramping through jungles was not really an attractive career decision. I chose to enter the Navy instead. After 16 years, I left to try some other professions. Emergency medical airlift pilot, project manager in a software startup firm. And finally, as an investigator for the Department of Defense in Stuttgart. After retiring from those professions, I grew restless. I needed another career. I didn't realize that what I was to become was similar to Luke Skywalker's father descending into the darkness that became Darth Vader. Yeah, pretty bad. One day I saw a strange advertisement in the local newspaper. Wanted, native English speaker with some knowledge of child psychology, must be capable of and willing to inflict intense mental suffering on human subjects when required. And so I became a math teacher. It's a crazy world, isn't it? I mean, students endure 6 to 8 hours of pain, I mean instruction, each day, and then they come to me for more. Go figure. Since I can't teach math during the TED Talk, can I share a few tips that have helped me make difficult decisions in my life? The U.S. Air Force once had a recruiting slogan, aim high, that's found its way into different posters. Tatsächlich, aim high indeed. My parents never counseled me that one career was better than another, but they did encourage me to set my goals high. My own 2 sons, as they grew up, asked me countless times, "Daddy, is that a good job?" I always answered them the same way. When you wake up in the morning, open your eyes, and can't wait to begin your day, that's a good job. Now here's an exercise in goal setting. I'll say 2 things, and you note the reading on your possibility meter as you compare the 2. Climb the nearby hill above Schloss or climb the highest mountain in Africa. Achieve a passing grade in theory of knowledge, TOK, or achieve a 6 or better in IB mathematics. Now, how many of you thought to yourselves, well, the hill above Stuttgart is easy, but Mount Kilimanjaro? Or, passing TOK, no sweat. A 6 in math? No way. Others may have thought, the hill above Stuttgart is a piece of cake, so with a little training, why not a mountain? And then a bigger mountain. A 6 in math is tough, but how many others have done it before me? So why can't I? I was blessed with a dad who saw life from the perspective of why he could solve a problem, achieve a goal, do the impossible. His first thoughts were nearly always, I can, instead of I can't. When my older son proposed that his brother and I should all climb Mount Kilimanjaro, my immediate answer was, sure, let's do it. The I can side of my brain kicked in. Yeah, Kili is one of the 7 summits. But hey, it's not Everest. Then the evil mathematician side of me took over, and I began to run the numbers, starting with Everest Base Camp to its summit, about 3,500 meters. Kili Base Camp to summit, 4,200 meters. Suddenly, I wasn't quite as sure of myself. Negative thoughts like those are what the motivational speaker Zig Ziglar called stinkin' thinking. The I can side of my brain finally won out. And all 3 of us agreed it was a life-changing experience. Aim high. It's tough to swim upstream. Try it in the Rhine River sometime. Going against the flow isn't easy, especially when there's peer pressure, and that isn't just a teenager thing. I was a new ensign in a squadron aboard an aircraft carrier. Now, an ensign is the very bottom of the naval officer food chain. Our ship came off station and was headed for a few days of rest and relaxation in Hong Kong. Before we arrived, the commanding officer, or CO, who, by the way, a new junior officer views really as God, he asked the squadron officers if there were any objections to using our wardrobe fund to pay for a hotel room and to stock it with booze, meaning enough alcohol to float a ship. Now, to know where the story is going, imagine your math teacher asking you if you have any questions about the lesson just covered. No one dares raise a hand, lest they be thought of as dumb, uncool, a straber. You get it. So there I was, slipping sideways glances around a room filled with 40 guys who, regardless of whether or not they agreed with the CO's proposal or not, were going to go with the flow. Talk about peer pressure. I slowly raised my hand and offered that perhaps just those officers who wanted to use the hotel room could contribute individually, and we could save the fund for its original purposes. What's notable is that I didn't need to justify my comment by saying, I don't drink alcohol. The CO, who I liked and respected immensely, paused, but only for a second, and without asking for other comments, said that we would do as I had suggested. Afterward, several other junior officers thanked me for having the courage to voice what they also felt. Conventional wisdom, let's call it CW, says we must generally fall into step, or go with the flow, of what the world's notions of normal, sane, and reasonable are. When I left the Navy, 8 years shy of a guaranteed retirement pension, my fellow officers thought I was crazy. I had no job and no prospects for one. What my wife Karen and I had was a dream to travel around the world. We'd figure out the rest when we returned. CW says that to be successful, we need to fast track, do whatever it takes, take no prisoners, and no points for second place. Where in the world did all that come from? And why does it receive so much emphasis at the expense of the kinder, gentler side of our natures? Did you ever once hear of CW allowing you to just chill? To be a child even when you're an adult? Abandon the popular notion that you have to climb on and over others to achieve your ambitions. If you help enough others reach their goals, you'll have everything you want in life and need. 30 years ago, conventional wisdom was that fathers were the breadwinners. When I decided to stay at home for the first 4 years of my son's life, it was not easy. When others asked what I did for work, my answer, full-time dad, often brought a pause to a conversation, especially with women. They sometimes had no response at all, or eked out a, "Oh, how nice." I was the only man at the bus stop to see my boy off to school in the morning, and the only one there when he returned in the afternoon. It was, without question, one of the best decisions I've ever made, and I wouldn't change it for anything. CW says you don't jump off cliffs without reasonable assurance of a soft landing. But the hard landings remind us that life could be dull if we don't take some chances. In the military, there is an expression, RHIP, RHIR. Rank has its privilege, rank has its responsibility. As I already mentioned a moment ago, a commanding officer is like God. He enjoys privilege and, like no other, but when something goes wrong, he pays a steep price. If his ship runs aground or collides with another vessel, the very first thing a U.S. Navy captain does, after ensuring the ship and crew are out of danger, is to pack a suitcase. He can count on being off that ship and relieved of his command probably within the day. Now, you might think that seems harsh and arbitrary. What if the accident wasn't his fault? It doesn't matter. Final accountability rests with him, or else no one aboard that ship will be certain of who's really in command when there's a life or death decision to be made. The same holds true for a business. Even if the chairman of Volkswagen had not known about the defeat devices deployed on its automobiles, he was responsible. We live in a world where individual accountability seems to be an anachronism, a world in which bad decisions, avoidable mistakes, and just plain unacceptable behavior are attributed to circumstances beyond a person's control, to societal factors, instead of individual shortcomings. During the last financial crisis, taxpayer money rescued corporations and other banks too big to fail. And yet, those responsible for decisions and actions that affected millions of people and their life savings simply walked away with no consequences. Is that a world you agree with and want to live in? Remember that life canto. Be prepared to live with your decisions and accept responsibility for them. Question and sometimes challenge authority. I can see I have the full attention of parents, teachers, and mentors. One evening, I was paired to fly with an officer 2 ranks above me. That's 1 below God. In the ready room, his breath reeked of alcohol. Streng verboten aboard U.S. Navy ships. Before the briefing began, I drew him aside and respectfully told him he needed to remove himself from the flight because I wouldn't fly with him. Landing on an aircraft carrier at night is difficult enough when you're sober, and I wasn't about to discover if he was up to the challenge after a few cocktails. My life was worth more than his rank or pride. Young men of my generation willingly followed their political and military leaders. We trusted them to act in the best interest of our nation and its people. Sadly, that was not always the case. Our leaders hid the terrible costs of the Vietnam War from the public for years. In the 60s, most men my age thought that conscientious objectors to the war were cowards, too weak to answer our call to duty. I realize now that many of those men and women were just as brave as the more than 2 million Americans who went to Vietnam and served. They made decisions that cost them dearly at the time. Some were incarcerated in prison, others had to flee the country. Yet ultimately, their convictions and the demonstrations of millions of Americans helped to end that conflict. Unless you live on a deserted island, someone will always be telling you how to live your life. Learn how to recognize when questioning their direction will be worth the outcome. Swallow your self-righteousness, but have the courage to take a stand when your conscience says you must. Well, I hope I've left you with a few ideas to help you deal with difficult decisions in your life. Aim high. In the words of the third U.S. President, Thomas Jefferson, if you want something you never had, you have to do what you've never done. Swim upstream and question conventional wisdom. If I could remember only one piece of advice from my dad, it would be, son, don't follow the herd. Question, even challenge authority, but know what battles to pick so you survive to fight another day. Take responsibility. When you make a mistake, admit it, correct it, and learn from it. And one more I haven't mentioned before, perhaps the most important in my life. Ask yourself, what would my hero do? I didn't need action figure superheroes growing up. Spider-Man, Superman, Batman. I had the real deal, my dad. Was he perfect? Is any parent? But he and my mom gave me the greatest gifts any parents can give a child: their time, their love, their values. They shaped the man I've become, and I still listen for their inspiration when faced with tough decisions today. Thank you all.